Hello and welcome everyone to today's conversation on coaching to create employee engagement. Super excited about what we will be covering in the next 30 minutes. First off, thank you to those of you who did submit questions ahead of time, hoping we've done a good job of incorporating that. Some of those questions are outside the scope of this conversation, so what I'm going to do is hang on afterwards at the end and answer those additional questions on other topics related to coaching. In the meantime, much of what you're asking, we've worked to build in, make sure we're addressing that in this presentation. And of course, we want to invite more questions. So as we go, you have two different options. One option is you can raise your hand. For those of you who are familiar with the webinar system, you know how to do that. For those of you unfamiliar, there is an icon in your control panel that looks like a little hand. And if you click on it, it raises your hand. I can unmute you at that point. You can come in live and ask your question, make your comment. And that way we make sure we address everything each of you is looking for. As I mentioned, I will stay on afterwards also to answer additional questions. So fast 30 minutes, where are we going in this conversation? Our agenda today, we will talk about engagement. Hey, what is it? We'll talk about individual coaching and group or team coaching. And of course, in that conversation, the emphasis is on how coaching applies toward that engagement. So we'll get specific, how coaching engages. We'll talk about coaching for strategy development, coaching for implementation, coaching for accountability and results, review resources, and then of course that extra Q&A time. Some of you did ask ahead of time, will you have access to this information after the presentation? So to let you know, if you have a registration to a program, after the program, we send everyone who registered a link to the recording. So sometimes if you miss it, that's a great way of getting a link to the recording of the coaching session. And for those of you who are here and want access to it again, that gives you that opportunity as well. So diving in, what is it we want to know about engagement? So coming from Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends, they did research, and here's what they said, and this is going back to 2014. The numbers continue to climb on this. 78% of business leaders are rating retention and engagement, I love this, as urgent or important. So it's really getting the attention of people. Then they go on and with Forbes, created a table for the Simply Irresistible organization, 5 elements that drive engagement. And in that table, they list meaningful work, hands-on management, positive work environment, growth opportunity, and then trust in leadership. And as they explain and flesh out what each of those are, here's something worth noting. Under hands-on management, they talk about coaching. And for those of you familiar with coaching, you're aware it's a very different approach in terms of managing. So old school of management is, hey, I'm going to tell you what it is and how to do it, etc. And the coaching approach in management is about empowering individuals to consider different possibilities and options and figure out their strategy and plan of action. It makes a difference, and it's hitting the bottom line, so companies are paying attention. A global workforce study was done, and here's what they say. Sustainable engagement, its efforts, segments across the globe, here's what they're finding. Highly engaged employees are 35%, and this is in all different fields. Unsupported, in terms of feeling engaged, 22%. 17% are actually detached from their work environment, and 26% are actively disengaged. When you think about what that means to a company, how few of the employees are really fully engaged, That's scary and definitely hits their bottom line. Let me give you an example. Here's one way it hits their bottom line. If an organization has less than 25% employee engagement, they have 62% more accidents than those in the 25% of engagement. And this is out of the Washington Business Journal. So simply put, the higher your engagement, the fewer accidents you have on the job. What is that saying to you? And think about how that relates to other areas as well. Another example for you, Bureau of National Affairs, and this is U.S., by the way. I know we have a lot of international people here as well. $11 billion are lost every year because of employee turnover. And that is all about engagement, people feeling engaged in their job. So I love this analogy. It comes from an article, Employee Engagement, the Evidence. So check this out. Imagine that your employees are your company's computers. And here's what you're talking about if you relate it to the statistics on engagement. 20% of the computers actually work properly. 60% of your computers are unreliable, and 20% of your computers don't work at all, or they're infected with viruses. Okay, if that were the condition in the workplace, how effective do you think you are? It absolutely is amazing, the level of disengagement, and at the same time, the opportunity for changing that and what it means to the bottom line. So what is the opportunity for changing it? Well, I'm guessing you know where we're going with this. We're talking about coaching. What is the reason we're talking about coaching? Because it has such a bottom line impact. Engagement is one of the things that's looked at. Turnover is looked at. Productivity is looked at. So many different measures. And the most commonly cited study out there is Manchester Inc. And they talk about coaching having a 570% return on investment. So that's amazing, 570%. Okay, put that on the bottom line. It's huge, huge, huge. So let's pull another number. And this one comes from Public Personnel Management. When you do a training program, productivity increases 22.4%. When you do training plus coaching, productivity increases 88%. Now, I do realize this statistic is looking at productivity as compared to engagement. I'm going to say those two are very closely connected. The study was from Public Personnel Management. And what is it telling us? 4 times the difference in terms of impact. 4 times. That's incredible. It's absolutely profound. So what exactly is coaching? Well, I know that we have lots of graduates here. There are a lot of people that are new to me, so I'm unsure how much you know. Let's look at the definition given to us from the International Coach Federation. Coaching is defined, and whatever type of coaching, we're talking executive, career, business, life, wellness, whatever kind it is. Coaching is a strategic partnership in which the coach empowers the client to clarify goals, create action plans, move past obstacles, and achieve what the client chooses. Imagine taking this into the workplace, teaching managers and leaders inside of an organization how to empower their employees so those employees are clarifying goals, creating action plans, and moving past obstacles. And the employees actually own the outcomes. That is a profound, powerful opportunity. So when you think about that in terms of coaching an individual, you're partnering with them. And again, this is ICF on Source in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize both their personal and their professional potential. Apply that in a group coaching setting, a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires individuals to engage, maximizing their personal and group or team potential. Fabulous, fabulous. Now, how does this work exactly? Let's dig into that. First off, and this comes from byworldwide.com, they did an article on this, and they were talking about leadership development. And in that article, they said, coaching, effective leaders are good listeners. They get to know their people and work hard to help them thrive and advance. When leaders develop coaching skills, they are more effective, which means employees are more engaged and more productive. Let's keep going. So back to Deloitte. The second management practice that drives engagement is coaching. A coaching culture is the practice that's most highly correlated with business performance, employee engagement, and retention. So here's what's funny, and they explain that here. We think, oh, a manager's job is about the work, directing people, evaluating the people. It's a smaller role than people think. They go on to say it's the coaching and developing the people that is the most valuable, that does the greatest service for the organization and for the individuals as well. It goes on to say, it is important to remember the job of the manager is developing, coaching, and helping their people. Maybe some of you have seen, we're so used to this pyramid of organizational structure, and for years, different sources have inverted the pyramid. So management's at the bottom at the point, and underneath the heavy end, the wide end of the pyramid where all the employees are. Because ultimately, attracting people, holding on to them, is going to be about helping them develop and grow, and that means they're going to leave the team. And ultimately, that's where you get a highly engaged workforce in an organization, and that's where you have the best bottom line. So in some ways, it's counterintuitive. And then when you really reflect on it and think about it, it absolutely makes sense. So going on from there, and this comes from Gallup, coach managers and hold them accountable for their employees' engagement. Because when management is responsible for the level of engagement of the employees, then they are invested in learning how to effectively engage people. And ultimately, how do you do that? It's a coaching culture. Companies coach managers to take an active role. So it's coaching for the managers, it's teaching the managers coaching, and the managers in turn coaching their employees. So it's great management, in essence, is great coaching. And that's how you're going to get that strong and engaged workforce. So I want to give all of you a moment to dig into what this is saying. I'm also going to recommend this. Go online, do an internet search on employee engagement. You will be amazed how many articles and studies come up that tie it back to coaching. If we pull from all of the different research sources and start boiling it down, what does it mean? Coaching is going to increase both group or team and individual results. Coaching will support the achievement of goals and objectives. How does coaching engage? It means that people are exploring insight from varied perspectives. They're discovering new opportunities, new resources, and new ideas. And then ultimately, they're creating ownership for action. We've had this conversation in coaching classes over and over. Think about it. If I tell you what to do and how to do it, how likely are you to actually do it? If you figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, how likely are you to actually do it? Man, that number goes up. way more likely. And you're engaged in the doing, which means there's more energy and effort in it. Productivity is up. And as an individual, it's a benefit because when you're empowered, you learn and grow. And that opens up more opportunity for you on a personal level, as well as supporting the company. So coaching is an opportunity for creating awareness. There are different roles involved in what's happening and different approaches to doing the work. And when you, for example, do group or team coaching, people are sharing those different concepts in a way that everyone gets a chance to really hear them. If you're doing it individually, you're, as a coach, working with an individual for considering the different perspectives, the different approaches. It means you've got a place for a targeted conversation and outcome where people are defining, hey, what are we going to get out of this? And they're staying on track. In the process, they're buying in to what they're doing because they have ownership of what they're doing. Ultimately, when you look at strategy development, it's going to involve the difference between managing, mentoring, and coaching. So let's take a moment and talk about that. If somebody's a manager, we have this perception or misperception, if you will, that it's their job to tell people what to do and then to evaluate the outcome. When we look back at the information we saw earlier, ultimately we want to move them into more of a coaching aspect. Laureen, I'm seeing your hand up. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, bring you in live. Hi, Laureen. Are you there? Okay, so Lorene, I've got you unmuted. Unfortunately, I'm not hearing you. So do me a favor and type it into the question panel so I can make sure we answer it. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue with what we're talking about. So managing is directing people. Mentoring, that's somebody who has experience. They come in and they pass on their wisdom and their experience. They're giving advice. What does a coach do? A coach empowers individuals to consider the opportunities, the potential barriers, how they'll move past them, explore resources and access them, develop strategies and action plans. What does that mean? Coaching really is strategy development. So that's a powerful tool. And I'm getting your input that the sound is funny. So I'm hoping the adjustments I'm doing right now are taking care of that. Thank you for that input. All right, so let's continue. Coaching for strategy development involves clear expectations and goals. What exactly is it that's expected, and what are the goals in terms of achievements, accomplishments, what's being done? It's about awareness and buy-in. By having that conversation and exploring that, you move into an efficient process for development. And that entire conversation and process is creating ownership and accountability. So coaching is a powerful, powerful tool moving people forward. It means that in that coaching process, you ensure new and existing competencies of the individuals are leading to quantifiable results. You increase management practices with a positive impact. You're maximizing the outcomes of what's going on in the organization. Coaching for strategy development also shows employees that the leadership believes in them. Think about it. When the individuals are empowered to explore, to figure it out, to take action, then they know that they're in the right place, and that their leadership believes in their ability to do the job. It increases ownership because teams and individuals are creating the plan for themselves. And that's amazing. Now, coaching for strategy development means you're communicating the big picture and engaging individuals in their specific role. So it's powerful, powerful tool. Let's explore statistics on this. Effective and timely coaching can make the development and implementation of a business strategy less daunting and more successful. And this comes out of Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology. So that's powerful. What does that mean you want to do? Explore. Explore what the organization's purpose is and explore how individual roles support that purpose. This is done through those coaching conversations. And then what's happening is you're moving into an outcome-focused process. So now that you know what you're working on, what you're going to accomplish, it's about figuring out how you're getting there. So what's the process, and developing the individuals who are making that happen and how they're part of that process. Coaching involves ongoing group and team coaching as an opportunity to develop and maintain that engagement and continue developing the people and enhancing productivity. Ongoing individual coaching additionally empowers people. It's a fabulous tool for developing future leaders, for transitions, for change management, and for empowering those leaders to in turn engage employees. What does that mean to us? It means coaching is the bridge between planning, training, and effective implementation because of the focus on individual action, individual leadership, and individual action. So coaching is an opportunity. It's a way of shifting accountability and results to the individual in that coaching relationship, which enhances the outcomes because coaching focuses on empowering and supporting them in their own process. Productivity, loyalty, retention all increase exponentially when a person is engaged, and coaching engages that person. It's really all about them processing, figuring it out, and doing it. So coaching for accountability and results means you're engaging the individuals in their own accountability, and that engagement links directly to the high performance and the productivity. So coaching has a focus on achieving the desired result. It develops individual goals and timelines and co-creates the accountability process. What are resources for this? So of course you can get on the internet. You can find more information on this. There are organizations available as resources for this, articles and publications, and people. So let's dig into some of those. In terms of organizations, definitely be aware of the International Coach Federation. Of course, we invite you to check out the Center for Coaching Certification and the Center for Coaching Solutions. The International Coach Federation is at coachfederation.org. They have information on membership standards, credentialing standards for individual coaches, plus the code of ethics and the competencies of a coach. Fabulous information. The Center for Coaching Certification provides the training that moves you toward the ICF membership and credentialing and supports you developing the competencies of a coach. The Center for Coaching Solutions works hand in hand with the Center for Coaching Certification. Services available in these locations. There's a blog available to you. Every year we publish a new book with fabulous content that works inside of organizations. And then, of course, these free webinars we do each month. We are available to you for a call or an email if, hey, I have a question, I want to check in on something, etc. And in addition to that, we provide outsourcing for you. Outsourcing is available for coaching programs, supporting you designing, developing, and managing your own. Outsourcing for training of coaches, and then, of course, providing the actual coaching services. Next steps for you. First off, thank you for those of you that were patient with me on any sound issues. I appreciate that. I do want to offer everyone here a free 30 minutes. I will send you an email with a link to the recording. Reply to that email. Let me know you want that 30 minutes, and I'll give you a link to my calendar for scheduling that. For you yourself, choose your resources, plan your process, implement your strategy, and achieve your results. I do want to shift into Q&A time specifically. So I'm going to invite you to either raise your hand or, if you want, type it into the question panel. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is double check. I also have some of the questions that you were asking. So one question is, we are building the availability of the coaches inside of the organization, and you want ideas on how to do that. So we offer a white paper on starting and running an internal coaching program. One of the things we talk about in that is define, first off, hey, what are the parameters that we're looking for in terms of a skill set for the coach? And who do we have that fits that? What training are we going to offer people? And then what you want is a process where they are actually applying to be one of the coaches on the team. When you're going to offer that coaching service to individuals inside the organization, have a process where they apply, because if it's just given to them or pushed on them, there's less engagement. So you want them actually having what we call skin in the game. There's an investment on their part to have access to the coaching. So filling out an application, getting approval of their manager to have work time dedicated for the coaching, those types of steps support them really fully engaging. Now, ideally, they have a chance to choose their coach. If you only have one or two coaches, of course, that is a challenge. So think about that. Give them a chance to interview with you and make sure they're comfortable with who you are as a coach and the process. And of course, when you start having 2 or 3 or more coaches, involve them in choosing who they want as their coach. Because when they are involved in that selection process, again, they're more fully engaged and invested in the coaching process, and you're more likely to be successful. So hopefully those couple of tips are helping. If you have a follow-up question on that, either raise your hand or type it in so we can get the rest of that covered. I do have another question asking about the culture of coaching, and I think we referred to it some. I want to go back to what we were talking about. The idea of coaching is really listening to people at different levels and then asking them questions so that ultimately, and here's the key, you are empowering them to figure out the answer and to figure out the action plan so that they're moving forward toward what they want to accomplish. By empowering them to do it, you create that engagement, plus you're enhancing that productivity. So excellent. Let's see. And I'm scrolling through. I've got a couple of different ones. So let me, long explanation here. You want to begin creating a coaching culture within an organization. Do you work first to socialize the idea of managers as coaches, or go straight to suggest that managers themselves become trained to be coaches? Okay, this is a great question. I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I don't know enough about the organization. What I can say is this. Ultimately, the success of coaching inside of an organization is going to be, it's going to start from the senior leadership, and it's a trickle down effect. One of the ways we have seen that engages the senior leadership is that's a group that cares about the bottom line. How is this impacting it? So when you can provide them the research on the return on investment for coaching, what the impact is, and there's lots of research out there. Most organizations are using coaching programs, so find those examples. Then they say, oh, okay, this is worth paying attention to. And then when you involve the senior leadership, at a very minimum, some basic concepts and understanding of how this works, that's going to be even more helpful. From there, yes. Usually it's a mix, and it depends on the culture. Sometimes organizations start with a talent development department or somebody in their HR system where they start coaching those senior leaders. Sometimes they bring in coaches to work with the senior leaders, and that process in and of itself demonstrates the power and the value of the coaching. And in the same circumstance, what happens is those leaders experience coaching being modeled for them, which in turn translates into how they're engaging and interacting. So it's a very powerful process. Where you have leaders that are open to going through a training program, absolutely it makes sense. And ultimately, coaching is being seen more and more as a core competency for anyone in a leadership capacity. So what does that mean for you? Your leaders that you're developing for the future, they are fabulous candidates to be sending out for coach training. So excellent, excellent, excellent. Great question. Hope that answer is helping. I'm seeing lots of other thank yous. I do realize that we have used our time. I want to make sure that I am letting you know. And yes, there's more questions coming. I'm going to come right back to you. Very quickly, I want to say thank you to everyone's here. Those of you that do have to jump because you've got other things scheduled, I appreciate seeing you here again. Look forward to being of service to you. We do want to let you know we are ultimately focused on being your resource for coaching results. Contact information is on the screen. Do reach out to us. And of course, watch for your email that will be coming out shortly with a link to the recording from today. So then other questions. We've got somebody that says, I am training to be a professional coach. How can I use that to begin creating a coaching culture within my organization? So part of it may be setting up coaching relationships, and of course the higher level management that you are working with as far as coaching them and supporting them, the more effective in terms of spreading that out. So you're in your coach training, what are your opportunities for coaching individuals? And not knowing what level of training you're in. For example, in our professional coach class is really a focus on developing competencies in coaching individuals. In our master coach class, we incorporate the group coaching concept, which means you're reaching more people at one time. What are your opportunities in the organization? Number one, to coach people, to coach groups. Number two, to start communicating what this is. Number three, to start modeling how to interact with people based on coaching competencies, applying those skills in everything you do. And of course, where you really have those close connections, talking to people about the training you're experiencing, what you're getting out of it, and what you're finding from that training really makes a difference in the work you're doing, and giving those examples. So it is about educating and communicating. Happy to, as I mentioned, I'm offering that free 30 minutes. If you want to dig into that further in terms of your organization, when I have more background and understanding, it's easier to help you strategize. Hey, what's an approach that's going to work for you? And then, of course, short term, anyone who's here, if you want a copy of our white paper on starting and running an internal coaching program, please feel free to mention that in an email. I'm happy to copy that white paper back to you. We do have additional recordings on our YouTube channel talking about some of these pieces in depth, because some of these questions are a full presentation in and of themselves. So thank you, all of you, for being here. Definitely appreciate your time, your interest in this topic. It's such a great topic. and I thank you for the notes in the question panel. Glad to hear it was helpful. And by the way, if you put the note in the question panel, as soon as I close the webinar, that's gone. So I'm going to ask you to literally email me and say, hey, please send me that white paper, so I make sure I get it back to you. So thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous St. Patrick's Day and a fabulous weekend. Take care.